Welcome to Berry Life. If you've ever been to Detroit, you may have heard of a local pizzeria chain called Buddy's. Buddy's has been in business since 1948 and is the home of the original, what is now referred to as Detroit-style pizza. This pizza is unlike any other. It has a thick, chewy crust with crisp edges and is made in a rectangular shape with square slices. If you've never had this pizza, then you're in for a treat. And by following this video, you'll see how easy it is. So let's get started. We're going to start by making the dough. This dough is similar to focaccia bread. For the dough, you'll need flour. You can use bread or all-purpose. We're using bread flour for the higher protein content, which makes a chewier crust. We'll also need some olive oil, some sugar to help activate the yeast, a teaspoon of salt, and some active dry yeast. If you have instant or rapid rise yeast, that works as well. And you'll also need some water. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button for more great content. We'll be uploading easy and delicious recipes every week. Also hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of future uploads. Before we get started on the dough, let's prepare the pan. For this recipe, we're going to use a 13x9 baking pan with square corners. Typically, this pizza is made in a cast iron pan, but those are hard to come by. This is a non-stick pan. However, to get a crispy, buttery crust, we're going to spray it with cooking spray, along with coating the inside with olive oil. When this oil heats up, it's going to create a crispy crust. You want to be sure to get every corner and all the edges. This will basically be like pan frying the entire pizza to GBD, golden brown and delicious. Setting the pan aside, now we'll go ahead and make the dough. Since we're using active dry yeast, we need to go ahead and activate the yeast. And we're going to do that directly in the mixing bowl by adding the yeast, sugar, and water, and then whisking it all together. The yeast will feed on the sugar and create carbon dioxide. After whisking it together, we're going to let it rise for about 10 minutes and then add the flour. If you're not using a stand mixer, you can do this in a cup. It's been about 10 minutes and the yeast has activated. We're going to go ahead and add the flour and begin mixing. If you're not using a stand mixer, you can mix by hand as well. Notice at this point, we won't add any salt. We want to properly hydrate the dough and also build the gluten network. Adding the salt now would hurt that effort. This mixing doesn't take long. We want the dough to pull away from the sides, and then we'll let it rest for about 10 minutes. The gluten has already begun to form as it sticks to the bottom and stretches. At this point, we're going to let the dough rest. This resting is called autolyse. This will hydrate the dough and help form more gluten. It's been about 10 minutes, and as you can see, the dough has expanded. Let's check for gluten development. You're looking for a nice stretchy dough that doesn't tear. This is perfect. Now we'll go ahead and add the salt and begin mixing. We'll mix for about 8 to 10 minutes until all the salt is incorporated and the dough separates from the sides. This is what we want to see. If you let the dough rest like we did for a minute during filming, it'll start sticking to the sides. It's nothing to worry about, as you'll see. This is a good sign. As you can see, the dough is well hydrated and incredibly stretchy. We're going to take this dough and form it into a ball. For this, we'll need to flour the surface and our hands. As you can see, this is a really sticky dough. If this happens to you, just use a little bit more bench flour. It's not going to impact the final product. Using your hands, just gently knead the dough into a round dough ball. We're going to use the stretch and tuck method, where we stretch on the sides with the palm of our hands and tuck them underneath with our fingers, while constantly rotating the ball. Then we'll just give it a couple of turns. Then we'll pinch the bottom to seal it. And that's it. The pizza dough is ready. If you see a trapped air bubble, don't save it. That's a good sign of gluten development. With the dough ready, we're going to place it in the pan, flatten it slightly, and coat it with olive oil so it doesn't dry and form a skin. Then we'll cover it with plastic wrap and let the dough rest for about 15 minutes. Right now the dough is kind of springy. We'll need to let it proof a little bit so it softens up so we can mold it into the pan. It's been 15 minutes and you can see the dough has risen and softened a little, so we can now mold it into the pan. To do this, we're going to coat our hands with olive oil and work the dough gently by pressing and pushing. We don't want to press too hard and impact any air bubbles that's formed. We do want to make sure the dough stretches to every corner and every edge. There shouldn't be any blank spaces. This will take a few minutes, but it's an important step to getting that perfect rectangular pizza. Working the dough like this is very therapeutic. With the dough stretched out from edge to edge and corner to corner, we're going to cover it with plastic wrap and let it proof for about 2 to 3 hours. While the dough is proofing, we're going to go ahead and make a homemade pizza sauce. This is a super simple recipe that only takes about 10 minutes. For the pizza sauce, we'll need 1 can of crushed tomatoes. San Marzanos would be preferred because of the sweetness. We'll also need some olive oil, minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano. This may seem like a lot, but typically pizza sauce has more oregano. We'll also need 1 tablespoon of dried basil. If you have fresh basil, even better. We'll also need some chili flakes, along with salt. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to help support our channel, so we can keep bringing you more great content, and hit the bell icon for future notifications. We'll be uploading easy and delicious vegan and vegetarian recipes every week. In a saucepan over medium heat, add the olive oil, along with the garlic and chili peppers, and then saute the mixture for about a minute. You should start smelling the garlic at this point. Then go ahead and add the crushed tomatoes. Now we'll add the dried basil, oregano, and salt, trying not to get herbs all over your stove. We'll combine everything and let it come to a boil. When you start seeing bubbles, place a lid on top and cook it for about 10 to 15 minutes. Give it a stir every once in a while, just to make sure it's not burning on the bottom. It's been about 15 minutes, and the pizza sauce looks good. Let's check the flavor. It's still a little tangy for our taste, so we'll go ahead and add a little bit of sugar. That's the best part about making your own pizza sauce. You can adjust it to your own preference. That's it, the pizza sauce is done. It's been about 2 to 3 hours, and the pizza dough has tripled in volume. Let's go ahead and assemble the pizza. We have our sauce, cheese, and toppings prepped. Detroit style is a little bit backwards, as you'll see. That's right. Instead of the sauce going first, the cheese will be the bottom layer. We're going to cover the pizza from edge to edge and corner to corner. In Detroit, they use something called brick cheese, which isn't commonly available. Instead, we're going to use Monterey Jack and a full-fat, low-moisture shredded mozzarella. Be sure to line the edges with a lot of cheese. When that cheese melts, it will get crispy and form something called frico. This leads to that signature burnt cheese crispy crust. It's all about that crunchy goodness. On top of the cheese, we'll lay on the sauce. At Buddy's, they put the sauce in stripes. We'll do the same here because it looks better this way. We'll make 3 lines as this is a large pizza. If you're nervous about drawing a straight line, you're not alone. At this point, my OCD kicks in, and I have to get the sauce in the corner. Now we can go ahead and pile on the toppings, starting with the onions. Then some green peppers. And lastly, the mushrooms. Now this is ready to go into the oven. We're going to preheat the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius. With the oven at target temperature, the pizza can go in on the lowest rack, near the heat. And we're going to let it bake for about 15 minutes. It's been about 15 minutes, and the pizza looks great. The cheese is nice and bubbly on top, and that frico crust has formed on the sides. The pizza is piping hot, so we're going to let it cool for about 5 minutes before cutting. Look at all that frico madness. Before slicing, we're going to have to carefully get underneath the pizza and slide it out onto a cutting surface. Luckily, the crust is thick and crispy, so it holds together nicely. You can hear how crispy it is. We're going to slice it down the middle first, and then down both sides, creating 4 columns. And then across the middle, creating 8 slices. This way, there should be equal amount of sauce on every slice. Let's take a look at the cross section. This is what we want to see: a chewy, doughy crust with crispy edges. We really hope you try this recipe. It's easy and something fun to do with the family. Once you bite into that crispy crust, you'll be hooked. There you have it, Detroit style pizza. Taste of Detroit right in the comfort of your own home. Man, that is insanely good. Enjoy it with a nice hoppy beer. If you like this recipe, hit that like button and let us know in the comments below. Also, if you try this recipe, be sure to tag us on Instagram at berryberrylife. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Enjoy!